Hello, my name is Pam, and welcome to Showing Up with Pam. I am beyond excited today because I get to interview my track coach. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to him, and then I'm going to bring him in the studio. Rick Hart, the SMU Director of Athletics, said, Dave Wollman has left an indelible mark on SMU athletics. And this is from a post that they had when he retired in 2015. Among his numerous accolades and honors are a combined 69 NCAA championship appearances, 16 top 10 finishes. Among these teams were 8 teams who made the podium. In case you're not aware, making the podium means you got first, second, or third, and earned 4 NCAA championship trophies. Wow. His athletes have won hundreds, let me say that again, hundreds of All-American awards. They won 34 NCAA individual titles, broke 7 collegiate records, and included 20 Olympians representing 12 different countries. Several of these athletes have gone on to win Olympic, World Championship, and World Cup medals. He also had previous stints at Stanford University and Purdue University, and his career has few peers and lands him among the elite coaches in track and field history. For his career accomplishments, Wollman received the title Master Coach. Wow. The highest level a coach can earn from both the U.S. Track and Field Coaches Association and the European Coaches Association. One of only 3 U.S. coaches to receive both honors. Wollman has been enshrined into the University of Indianapolis Hall of Fame, Indiana Track and Field Hall of Fame, and the prestigious Mount SAC Relays Hall of Fame. I am honored and just overjoyed to now introduce you to my coach, Dave Wollman. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Pam. How's the superstar doing today?
Oh, I was actually nervous in front of this one. I just, I'm trying to shake it out a little bit.
You were. Well, I got a chance to watch all 4 of your others. And I think if you remember back in the day, which was way back in the day, we won't talk about that, how far back we go.
Okay.
But I told you your personality was so big. I told you needed to be on TV with 2 chairs interviewing people.
I remember you used to say I should be on TV,
and all the time.
I would roll my eyes like, okay, Dave, whatever.
Yes, you would. And here we are.
What's that, 30 years later?
And that's a little delay in listening to me, but
I was always a little hard-headed, wasn't I?
Well, I don't know if hard-headed. There was a lot of things that were special about you.
Aww.
That's for sure. We could go on the whole 30 minutes if we want to break down Pam.
I'm sure we'll get to those. Hold on now. So now I know you've been retired for a while and you're living in Florida, correct?
No, actually, that's not true anymore.
Oh, okay.
I did that move. I crashed and burned at age 57. Just really just years of being all in all the time.
Yes.
And just decided to retire. And my wife and I moved to Florida and thought, you talk about showing up. I waited for everything to show up for me, and nothing showed up. I had the beach, I had my wife, my golf clubs, and that just wasn't enough. That wasn't me. And so we moved back to Dallas. So we're about 2 blocks from our old house now. Yeah.
How long have you been in Texas?
2 years now.
Oh my God.
2 years. Yeah.
I did not know that.
I know. See, you got to stay in touch. We have lost touch.
Wow.
I'm glad you stayed in Texas.
I'm a little shocked right now, but that's okay. We're going to fix that. So how are you enjoying your retirement now? Have things kind of calmed down for you?
Well, yes. Actually organized, more like what does it mean to be retired? And there's a huge transition, and people tell you throughout the process you got to prepare for it. It's a transition. You got to prepare. You got to have something to do. You got to have. I did none of those things. I just crashed, and I thought, well,
oh my goodness,
I actually get to see Shelly more often.
Oh yes, please give my love to Shelly.
I will definitely do that. And that was a big part of it because I had spent most of my life away from home. So in track and field, it's a unique collegiate sport.
Yes.
because if you're good, you're not home maybe 40 weekends a year. And what that means is you're going all cross country season to cheer your team on, whether you're a cross country
Right.
coach or not. If you're the director, you go. And then
Mm-hmm.
all indoor track, and then all outdoor track, and then all Europe all summer. So
Right.
and then recruiting on the weekends you're home. So it is really a life spent as a nomad, and one spent was perfect for me. I loved every second of it.
Right.
But I ran out of gas, and
Mm-hmm.
it took me a while to transition into what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, now I've kind of reinvented my career. And
Really?
I've developed. I started when I got back. It's a long story. We don't have to get into the woes of my career, but
I
I
got
lost.
time. Go ahead.
Okay, well, at SMU,
Mm-hmm.
after the fourth straight top four national championship trophy for the men, they
Mm-hmm.
dropped my men's program in 2004.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
so that meant that I had half the responsibilities, and we weren't leaving Dallas because Shelley is just in love with Texas and Dallas, and
Uh-huh.
so this was never good. I had plenty of offers and opportunities, but I knew it just was never going to be. So I was going to be the women's only coach the rest of the time at SMU,
Oh,
and
wow.
honestly, that tore me up pretty good for a couple of years,
Okay.
and lost motivation. We went from
Mm-hmm.
winning everything to being last in the conference, women's conference, to
Right.
nobody at nationals, And then I just woke
Wow.
up one day and realized, it it, it wasn't about who I coached or what the level I coached. It was really
Right.
just about coaching and making an
Yep.
impact in young people's lives. And
Absolutely.
so once I realized that, I got back on the train and had a really fun rebuild of the women's program, and it went
Oh my
back on to all
goodness.
kinds of conference championships, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just a great experience. But in the process, I was looking for other things to fill my life, so I took on a couple of things. I took on an assistant athletic director job as an academic liaison, the guy who went between, who really kept wars from developing between the two,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And the other thing that I did was I started a Sunday clinic, and that was for junior high, middle school, high school age kids.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That
for
is
about
awesome.
12 years, I worked every Sunday afternoon with young kids, and I had more fun.
I'll bet.
By the third year, we had grandparents, parents, all the lawn
Oh.
chairs round the circle, watching their kids learn and just enjoying every second of it. And I met so many lifelong friends on those Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized at that point that the good Lord had that plan all along. And it was a real special transition for me. So when
Okay.
I left all that behind. But
Mm.
here we are, we're talking
Mm-hmm.
on live online, right, at the moment.
We are live, my friend.
And I don't
Yes.
know if you remember this, but this is a funny story. But back when I first started coaching, which was shortly after I came to Stanford,
Mm-hmm.
it was there was a big old 30-pound thing I carried on my shoulder, and it had a big camera and a
Yep.
big battery pack and a
Yep.
big tape that fit in it. Remember?
Yep.
And it
The
weighed about
old
4.
videotapes. Yep.
Yes, and I thought it was the
Uh-huh.
greatest invention known to mankind back then,
Right.
because
Mm-hmm.
I could video you guys and analyze,
Mm-hmm.
and all in one moment. I take it back to the office and slip it
Mm-hmm.
in a machine and say, okay, yeah, I saw that, I didn't see that, and then go on.
Mm-hmm.
But now you can take your phone to practice,
I know.
right? Take a
Yes.
video, send it to
Mm-hmm.
your home office, go
Mm-hmm.
home, analyze it with all this crazy, amazing software where you can frame
Mm-hmm.
by frame it, overlay it, draw circles. You could just go crazy with it,
Right.
and then put that in the email to your client. And then they came up with something called Zoom, and you can, right? So I started thinking, okay, well, we besides the Sunday clinics, when we had to cancel those because of the when I got back to Dallas, I restarted those up, and they became real popular again, and I had a lot of people coming, but then we had the virus. So what could we do? I didn't want to quit that because it brought me back to life. I mean, I truly am a coach for life. I can't stop coaching like I did. I made that mistake. I'll never do that again. Because,
sounds right. Yeah.
You know, because when you say the big question, and I watch everybody ask, who's showing up for you? And I really thought about that. I never really came at life that way. I really came at life was, who can I show up for? So it was always thought of like, I was the one who wanted to serve. And really that's, as a coach, that's the mentality you need to have. Right. Because that's what you're doing. You're making an impact to young people, and you're trying to figure out how you can improve their lives through athletic performance.
Absolutely.
So, you know, once I figured out that, I realized, okay, well, who's showing up for me? Well, every one of those Sunday athletes that are now online, they're all doing online coaching. And so I do Zoom practices with them, FaceTime practices with them. They send me all these videos all week, and then we make analysis, and I send back a video analysis and tell them what to work on for the week. I demo drills for them to do, and they're off and running.
Are you still demoing drills, Dave?
Yeah, my body's still working. It's still working.
I can just see you.
Yeah. Well, you would, because as a learner, you were a very visual learner, so I had to be able to do that, right? Speaking of you, I was reliving a little bit of that. Like when you first get an athlete in, you have to determine what their needs are, right? Because motivation comes from filling needs. You do this for me, and then guess what you're going to get for it, right? And that's the basis of motivation. Maslow's hierarchy kind of varies with everybody, but where you are on the need scale matters. And I need to find that out as soon as possible when I first get an athlete. Well, okay, so Pam.
Oh, no, I can't.
So Pam,
go ahead.
There's nobody who's going to disagree with this. It took a village. It literally took a village, because one guy standing there telling you how good you could be, how great you could be, didn't cut it in your life. You got bored with me so quickly that whenever I wanted extra effort, extra performance, remember you used to ask me how many throws we doing today?
I knew you were going to say that. Yes, I was going to say, do you remember when I got there and you would say, we're going to throw a shot? And I remember putting my hand on my hip and saying, well, how many?
Yeah, that's
and if it wasn't the right number, I would, oh my God. This is so
That's right. And you'd be surprised at how many throwers with that kind of mentality I've met over the years. And I figured out along the way, it wasn't because they weren't motivated, but they had to determine how long they could stay focused. So they project themselves out and say, okay, 25 throws, I can do that. And you learned how many to give them to how before they lose focus. Or you can say, look, we're going to do 25 minutes of drills and then 15 throws and then 15 stand throws. You try to break it up into 3 things. So in their mind, they aren't thinking that the whole process is going to take long, because staying keyed in and focused is a key to learning, right? As soon as you lose focus, there's no learning going on.
I think I was just lazy, Dave.
Okay. But that's a different thing. Were you lazy, or did you not know what real work was?
Ouch.
Yes. I mean, because when I met your parents, I pretty much realized you were the spoiled child.
Check, please. Check, please.
You had to know this was good.
Yeah. I can't even take this.
Okay, so
no, you are so right. I look back at where I started, Dave, and when I realized, I still remember freshman year when I realized, okay, this is what work really feels like. Because I didn't have to work that hard, and I was blessed, but I didn't have to work as hard in high school. So boy, when I got to college,
it was year round, right? I mean, it was every day. And so you had to learn how far you could push yourself. And of course, the limitations are always mental, always. And so you've got to figure out what kind of person is that person, and how do you get in their head? How do you push their buttons? And as a good coaches will all realize that all good motivation is positive motivation. So you got to figure out how to create a sequence of mental development, where they are, where they need to go in order to achieve their potential.
Right.
And so along the way, I had to bring in a cast of characters to motivate you. But
wait a minute, time out.
Think about it. Think about how many people are. When I said, Pam, we're going to throw far today, and then I run over and who would I get? Who would I get to come over and watch you throw far? Because it took somebody that you felt was important in your life or was important generally in order for you to pump up. So we bring Brooks over all the time, wouldn't we?
Oh my
the
God.
Head coach. And sure enough, if I brought Brooks over, you would achieve what we wanted, and you feel.
I was afraid of Brooks.
Well, I could use that too, and that was a valuable tool at times.
Well, Dave, guess what?
Yeah.
I have a surprise for you.
Oh, let's go.
Dave.
I've invited a couple of friends.
Patty.
And
Hi, guys. Stanford crew. Wow.
How you doing?
Such good memories. Such amazing memories, really. I was
Hi,
so
Dave.
blessed. Hey, Patty. You guys, I'm not sure you recognize just how incredibly lucky I was to get that job to be able to coach you guys. It really
we do.
I mean, really, I had what I knew was this much when I got the job, and it was a way I definitely interviewed well. Let's put it that way.
Dave, I have to jump in here and say that one of the things I always say is that I take credit for you getting that job, because Carol, Katie, and myself were brought into the office when we got back by Brooks and said, "Look, you guys are the Froze program here at Stanford. We've got a couple of people that we're looking at. I want you to look at them, and you have to decide who the next coach is going to be." So literally we sat down with Brooks and went through it, and we had John Powell came in as the discus coach, because John had been working there as well, and Tom Pagani had left, and we went through the people, and there was this young buck coming out of Indiana, Purdue University, and we thought, oh, that's a good guy. We want to have this young guy that's coming in. He wants to work hard. He wants to prove himself. And so I was pleased you came in and joined the program. That was my sophomore year. So
and maybe it was pure luck, but maybe it was a good Lord leading the way. So I appreciate you guys choosing me and directing Brooks the right way.
I don't know if you see Robert's also joined us.
Oh yeah, I see him. I thought this was going to be a serious discussion, but when we're showed up, I know it's not going to be.
Dave, it's too late. It's gone downhill.
Hey, what's Robert got to do with coaching at Stanford?
So for those of you who are watching,
stories about you two, Dave.
Yeah, this is a little surprise for Dave.
Hey, you're looking.
I've invited.
You all are. All you guys look good. Really good to see you all. Wonderful. I'm so proud of all your performances and your life achievements. Amazing what you guys done with your life. Amazing.
So I'm going to try to bring
maybe Robert, but what?
Yeah, I'm going to try to bring this to order a little bit, because I had a couple questions I wanted us to answer with you, and we talked about showing up, but I want everyone to maybe share one or two of their favorite memories while at Stanford and competing. And I'll go ahead and start, and then we'll go to Sean, Robert, and Patty, experiences at Stanford. And for me, Dave, we've already talked about it. I remember how I really wasn't that much of an athlete when I got there, and how I was so exhausted with everything, because I really did not know what it meant to work hard. But thanks to you and surrounding me with these great people, I was able to learn that. So I am grateful for that. We're going to kick it to Sean now and see if he wants to share some of his memories.
My abiding memory, Dave, is probably the first trip we got to take together, and Robert's involved in it, because we went to the Dallas Times Herald meet.
I'll never forget this.
To throw the 35-pound weight, and it was the indoor meet, but we threw outside at SMU. Yeah. And I took the trip, and my big friend Robert there was the world record holder, I think, at the time, and out there, and we come from a little different background. I'm a little more relaxed.
Yes. No question.
Up student, and we're there for the competition, and I get out my camera and start taking pictures. And you nearly threw a hissy fit. You were like, "What the hell's going on here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just staying relaxed. This is it.
Yeah.
This is me. I'm trying to take it easy." I have to say that actually I threw a PR there, so I was pretty pleased with my performance. I stayed relaxed. Most importantly,
You did.
I got one of the few pictures in the world of Robert Weir in shorts. Right, and I still use that against him because very few people have ever seen his legs.
I've seen my legs. I've seen my legs.
Yeah,
so that was a valuable meet.
I remember that. I really do. It's some irony there. It was SMU, wasn't it? I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I can honestly say this: I have coached people from all over the world, Sean, and I have never coached another one like you. Never.
Aww.
You're a very unique guy.
He's doing a little
And
hard.
clearly, you figured it out because you're still next to the ring with a camera.
Yeah,
That's what you are. I mean,
I am.
You were just as much interested in other people's performance and how they did it and how they achieved what they did as you were your own. And that was the unique about you. And I was 25. If I would have had you at 45, I would have coached you completely different. And I would have seen your shot put talent, by the way. I would have seen it.
Yeah, that came later.
It did. It did.
That was just a decision I made when I decided I wanted to make the Olympics, and I was just trying to figure out. My back was not in a good way, so I just wanted to find me, Dave, I'm lazy, right? So therefore, I find the best way, the easiest way, the most efficient way to do things. So for me, the easiest way to get to the Olympics was to learn shot put, and so it took me 15 months, but I made the Olympics in 15 months. So
well, yeah,
it was a challenge.
Okay. You won the John Powell Award every year. I remember that.
I never won it. He named it after me. He named it after me and awarded it in my honor.
It was always tongue in cheek. So
it was the Sean Pickering Award for the greatest distance for the least amount of effort.
Yes. All right, let's keep this going. Patty, would you like to share one or two of your memories?
Yeah, I want to share one because when you brought it up, the first thing that came to mind is with Dave. And Dave was very patient with me, as was most of the people on the track team, with my emotions. And I remember, do you remember this book, Dave?
I do.
The Missing Piece?
I do. Yeah.
You introduced me to this book, and I think this was my very first help book or self-help book. And I've loved it ever since. And I have the Missing Piece meets the Big O, because you have to have that one as well.
Yes, of course.
And I just love those books, and just really made me start to think about how our mind really impacts who we are and what we do and how we react to things. And so, I want to thank you for that, Dave, because that's one of my firmest memories. And it was up in the building that's now the admissions office, our old track building, where I think we had that conversation. And it was hard at the time because I didn't want to believe that I had that much control over my emotions or my thoughts, and yet you announced this thing to me that I just didn't comprehend. And I've spent probably since then trying to understand it and figure it out. So thank you for that.
That's cool. It's very cool. I'm glad you still have that book. It clearly something worked right, because your life and your career is mega success, and so proud of you, Patty.
Oh, thank you, Dave. I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity to train with you. So thank you.
I enjoyed our lunch. It was 10 years ago.
Oh, probably at least that. Yes. But yeah. And hopefully we'll get a chance to do that again. Yeah. We'll have to do that again.
That would be enjoyable.
All right, Robert, what you want to share?
I have a few things to share, but first of all, for me, it's a remarkable irony that I would be at SMU, Dave would be at Stanford, and years later, it was almost a complete role reversal.
That's true.
But we were both doing the same job of coaching. But there are a couple of things about Dave that I would say, aside from the coaching, we traded information back and forth. I gave him some information that helped Giannis throw 21.97, because I said, Dave, this is what Adam does in his training. And he goes, yeah, that's it. That'll be the breakthrough. And I didn't know. I was just telling him, so you might want to consider this. But Dave gave me some tremendous information that helped a discus thrower at Stanford. His name was Daniel Scherer, go from 175 feet to 201 or something in a year. In a year, because we talked about technique and how he'd moved the stance at the back to a narrow stance, and he put you over your left, and we talked back and forth about various things to do with technique. And so I thought, well, share information. But those are a couple of things coaching wise. But what I really know Dave for is two things. One is being support, and one has been kindness. There was a situation at Stanford one day when the head coach there had done or had said some things that were just uncalled for, and Dave was going to go over there and just let him have it. And I said, "No, Dave, don't." I said, "It's not worth it. It's just why let that person interfere with the quality of what we're doing? We might as well, we'll just move on. He'll move on, we'll move on, we'll just forget about it." He says, "Robert, one day I'm going to tell him." I'm like, "Dave, no, it's not worth it. Don't do that." And the other thing I noticed about Dave is that one of the things I will say is his kindness. He has a sense of humanity about him, which I really, really respect and I really, really appreciate. And it's demonstrated in a number of different ways. And we've had some discussions where we're on the opposite sides of things, and we've come to realize that we're in common ground, but we're just looking at the same thing from a different point of view. So, and that's where Dave has really gained my respect. I mean, he's put up with my jokes, but other than that, he's a great guy. And I wanted to really take the opportunity to thank you, Pam, for inviting me to this, because it gives me the opportunity to let him know how much I appreciate what he's done over the years, not just as far as what I can see, but what he's done for a number of athletes, because a number of people have a strong sense of respect and high regard for you, Dave. So it's an honor to be here, and I thank you both for doing that.
Well, I appreciate that, Robert. I would not have sent Mikey to just anybody, so the feeling's mutual.
That's very true. You wouldn't.
Yeah,
that's
I was only sending him one place. Otherwise, he was staying put.
Well, and to your credit, he made the Olympic team when he was finished at Stanford the following year.
And he won a U.S. championship and a national championship.
The U.S. championship was fun. That's another story. I'll tell you.
Well done. Well done, Coach. Well done.
Yeah. No, well done to you too.
So one of the things I wanted to do, you guys have already kind of touched on it with your memories, is talk about some of the biggest lessons that I learned. And I would definitely have to agree with you guys all as far as Dave's kindness. I don't really remember him getting upset that much. I think he was always kind of, even keel. Robert's like, okay, wait till my turn. But I think the biggest lesson that I learned from you, Dave, was the way you taught was different, because I realized after when you left me to go to Texas, you remember, I remember.
I do.
I had
really bad too.
Doing it, stop.
But
I had different coaches. And one of the things that was different is that you taught us to be independent. So you would teach us what to do and what are the things we most likely were doing wrong, because you coached all over the track. So you weren't just sitting there watching me throw the shot. You're overdoing high jump and you're doing this and that. And so when I was actually competing, I didn't always have a peripheral view of you. And sometimes that makes athletes nervous. But one of the things you taught me is how to self-correct and be independent. So if I was ever in a situation I didn't see you, I didn't panic, because, oh my God, my coach not watching, I'm going to screw it up. And then what's going to be? You taught me that I had to be able to do it on my own and to figure it out. And you became more of a consultant at some point versus always having to tell me everything. And I noticed that was a big difference. And I honestly take that with me and carry it with me now, trying to teach people to have the independence to do what they do versus relying on me to do everything.
Well, that's really, really cool, because that has clearly been one of my overriding principles that I've always felt like is when an athlete comes to me, they're coming from a parental guidance, which they're making about 20% of the decisions for themselves, and usually with help from their parents. And then when they graduate in 4 years, the opposite has to be true. They have to be pretty much self-reliant, and they have to make good choices. So somewhere along the line, they gotta make that work down that continuum of making choices, and usually the first dozen or so are bad choices, and then they have to work themselves into the cause and effect of bad choices, and then once they figure out that if I go out on Friday night all night, my Monday practice is going to suck, and guess what? That means my dream of being an Olympian isn't going to happen. If you can connect those three things and gain the maturity, then you can make better choices, and then that process carries through for life. I just had, and I'll make it short because I know we're running out of time, but I just had a child that is online with me, and he's going to be at Rice next year. Stupendous young man, right? He threw 135 feet last year, and just this week, he threw over 190 with the 1.6 1 year later. And, and he threw 5150 with the 2K already.
Is that the chap who had a before and after video online?
No, that's a different one. He's going to the Naval Academy, and he's another one that improved dramatically. But what he did to me, you talk about showing up, and I love those words now that I understand what they mean. But he sat down with me, and as a senior in high school, now this stuff doesn't happen. You talk to your coach like this, but he said, Coach, everything you taught me about being responsible for making my choices, making good choices. He goes, I know that got to me today. And I got to tell you, it carries over in all walks of life. I've been using that in everything, in my studies. And you know, for me, to me, that validates my career choice. It validates my life and means a lot. So when I hear it from you guys, I appreciate that. I really do.
All right, Sean, you're up.
Well, look, I've been around track and field while you guys went off. Well, Robert's been around track and field as well, but you two ladies have been off, you know, making your names in the world and forging new careers and making a great reputation. Robert and I have been kind of track bums. We've done other things, but we've traveled around the world and stayed quite close to track and field. And so the real thing that I want to say about Dave is how much his influence has meant to so many people around the world, partly because of those athletes that he's had. A number of them have come from a number of faraway places, Estonia, South Africa. And I'd very often see Dave. I saw him at things like the European Under-23 Championships, where he's out there supporting some of his students. And you know, and I remember, you know, Mike Robertson. We were just talking about him. I met Mikey when he was 16 and living in Belgium, and Dave recruited him from there. And so his influence has really gone far and wide, and that's testament to the man as well. And I know a lot of those athletes, Jason Tunks in Canada, and Terry Cantwell, you know, they all hold him in the highest regard and would trust him with their families, which I think is a good thing as well, because they've got some incredibly talented kids. And I think they're really disappointed that he's not coaching in college anymore, because, you know, sort of Julia Tunks and Jackson Cantwell, there's some just incredible 13, 14-year-old talents that, you know, are just gonna set the world on fire. And I'm sure they wish Dave was still coaching, because that's who they trust. That's his their second family, in loco parentis.
I appreciate
the role
that.
the coach has to do.
That's awesome.
I appreciate that.
Patty.
Well, you know, I'm going to add to a lot of what you said, Pam, and you know, you too, Dave. And I'm glad that you went to Sean next, because I got emotional the last time I talked to Pam online, and I don't intend to do that again. But Dave got me close. Dave got me very close, because if you remember, which I'm sure you do, you know, if most kids come in making 20% of their decisions, you know, between my parents and my high school coach, I'm not sure I was making 2% of my decisions, and I was uncomfortable making those decisions. And so I think I was a real challenge to the coaching staff and to others, because I just didn't know how to make those decisions. And I'm so thankful for that foundation, Dave, that you gave, because I was in your office a lot, and you were always supportive. You were always kind. I think even when you just wanted to shake me and go, what is wrong with you? You never did. And yet I wouldn't have blamed you for that. When I look back at how much I struggled really getting out on my own, it was a hard time. And I remember you and Shelly, you know, the first night I came out to California, I stayed in your apartment. And I remember the cat crawled on me. This is another memory I had. And I remember you saying something like, that cat only likes pregnant women. And you kind of, and I'm like, don't worry, that's not a problem. But I still remember you saying that at one point. And it stuck with me. It just made me like, what does that mean?
Funny.
I had no idea.
Buddy. Look, Robert's still laughing. Oh my God!
I remember you had to run to the phone immediately after a competition as a freshman. Yeah, I remember that very, very much. Yeah. But eventually you broke through.
Well, I think because of you only. I mean, and you at one point drew the line in the sand, and it was a hard growth experience. But it was probably one of the certainly the top 10, if not top 5 best things that ever happened to me, is being able to break that cycle that was going on. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Pleasure. All mine. You showed up for me every day in practice. I remember you telling Pam that you were the demonstration in the weight room on what hard work is, what hard work will achieve. And that was very true, Patty. You knew how to work hard from day one. and your technique in the weight room was also exceptional. It didn't take any teaching at all. So,
and it bugged me. It's like, don't you get tired?
When you're building a program, the environment makes so much difference, and you're looking for pieces to fit into, right? And so that hard worker, that overachiever, that person who's willing to do anything to achieve is such a key ingredient. And so you were one of my first recruits, I believe, Patty, and even I inherited Pam. She was there when I got there. So I was looking for that. You weren't the biggest, you weren't the strongest, you weren't the fastest, but you were something special, and I knew it. So and it made
thank
an
you for
impact
taking
on the
that
whole
chance
program.
on me.
It made a big difference for the whole program.
I'm not sure that he
well,
took a
thank
chance.
you.
I
think he took a big chance, especially with the baggage I was carrying from North Dakota.
All right, Robert.
Well, I'm going to say a couple of things. That it's interesting that you pointed out that young man, the senior in high school, as applying some of your things in all areas of his life. I found that you helped a number of athletes grow up, even though they came from around the world. And I remember once we were at a track meeting, actually NCAA's in Oregon, and we had the hammer thrower, we had a couple of other guys, Giannis was there as well, and the French guy, and they were going somewhere, and he said, right, here's the car, off you go, and I'll see you when you get back. And I said, Dave, you're going to do that? He says, Robert, they won't become an adult unless I start to treat them like adults. That's our responsibility of giving it to them, and we'll just see how they'll do. And he says, the other thing I want you to understand, Robert, is that if you take care of the athletes, they'll take care of the program, and it will take, and he said, it will make your job a lot easier. And I've never forgotten that. And I try to do the similar things with the people I work with. I give them, there's certain restrictions, of course, now, but I try to give them the responsibility of that. Here's your opportunity, and here's your choices. And if you fall down, I'll help you get back up on your feet, but you still have to take the steps. And that's part of what I remember most. And it was really funny because even though we were, joking around back and forth, the fact was I was able to pick up on those lessons when the guy came up to you, goes, oh, here's the keys, see you guys later. And I said, where are they going? Oh, they're just going down by the coast in Oregon, and down by the Oregon coast, and they'll look around, and then they'll be back later on this afternoon, and no problems. But the other thing is,
but those keys are never given on Friday night after competing.
It's the middle of the week. the other thing you say about his temper and so laid back. The only event that I've seen him really upset about was the high jump. The high jump. That's the one event. I remember once he had something. He was like, he grabbed like a sheet of paper, scrunched it up, and walked away. Like, Dave, you don't seem to be that way in the throwing events. He goes, well, Robert, the high jump's one of the events that I love, and that's the one event that I really want them to do well in. and that's what I remember. So I thought for a jumps coach, you're not too bad as a throws coach either.
Well, I had at Stanford, I had two of the best athletes in history of Stanford as being my first two high jump athletes. Yeah. So I mean, it was it would have been very easy to screw them up. I'm glad I didn't.
You did well. The other thing I must point out was the school record at SMU in the men's shot was 21.76 by Mr. Michael Carter. I think you've heard of him. And and most of the school records that was sort of quote unquote very, very good were set by in a shot, the discus, the hammer, and in the javelin. And Dave, I think, broke almost. I think not. Is it the javelin you didn't really have somebody in?
Yeah, Rauld was just too much.
Raold's the only one that you didn't get to, but every school record that was there, he broke. And
well, believe me, that was one of the big carrots on the stick. You can count on it.
Yeah, and I remember another athlete saying to you, I never thought any of those records would go. I'm like, yeah, well, that guy broke every record.
Yeah, I remember talking to Ted about that. He was your coach, and he was quite surprised that they all fell. And honestly, as you're coaching going through life, you get it, like you said, Jason Tunts, and I had Alex Tammert already on the team, and I thought, well, I'm never going to get another Alex Tammert. He's my guy, right? And then come along Jason, and first three meets, they're within 2 centimeters of each other. And then I realized, wow, I've got superstars, and then they're going to graduate. Then what am I going to do? Well, I mean, the next ones came in, and Giannis and Hannes, and so it's I've been blessed with some wonderful people, and
Dave,
unbelievably blessed.
Success breeds that, right? So people wanted to come there because they saw what you did. So you know, you had some good high jumpers at Stanford, Brian and Lisa, but you also had some good high jumpers at SMU. So and people followed when you saw that people were getting results, and also the way you went about it technically. Yeah, you threw the right way. People saw that, particularly people from an international point of view, and that's something that I can speak for. They didn't see you as the typical U.S. coach that's just going to throw you in the weight room and get you just big and strong. They saw you as a more European or international coach, and that's why you had a lot of success with those athletes. Because they trusted you, they would come there, but also you kept them athletic. You kept working with their skills, and you developed those skills, and that's why the Hannes would come, because he saw what you did with Jason, and others would come. Mikey came because he saw what you did with Hannes. So that success breeds success, and that's down to you. So, you know.
Well, I really appreciate that. And before we build me up into something I'm not, let me tell you the Hannes story quick. Hannes Hopley is still the collegiate record holder in the discus. And he's 5'10", about 225. And I think ringing wet, he got 229 when he was here. And as a junior, he broke the collegiate record and made 8th place at the Olympic Games. And then they dropped our program, so he didn't get to do his senior year. But in 3 years, he went from where he was to being what he became. And the year before that, he won the World Junior Championships, right? As throwing a 2K. And he had thrown over 185 feet with the 2K. And I looked at him, and I was so into anthropometrics. I had finished Alex and Jason. I had Giannis. They're all big, tall, long people. I knew the difference between a long radius and a short radius. And I looked at Hannes and I told him, well, look, I'm interested, but I think maybe you'd be a better hammer thrower. And he says, well, no, I don't want to do the hammer. He goes, I only had one scholarship and I gave it to somebody else that year. And I told him, well, stay home. And if I have one next year, I'll bring you out. So he did. He stayed home, started some business because he's kind of an entrepreneur guy. And he called me back the next year and said, I still want to come. So I turned down the collegiate record holder from coming to SMU. I turned it down. He could have gone anywhere else, but he was only 5'10", so I had already decided he didn't have the future. And the big comeback is, though, and he'll tell you this, the big comeback is first day of training, the very first day of training. I didn't know what he had, but I told him he was going to break the collegiate record, and that's the absolute truth. The day one, I told him he was going to do that. And eventually I found out that he had a car spring for an ab section. And if you wound it up right, the explosive that would come off of that finish was just ridiculous. So I really got lucky there. I wasn't so smart.
Well, Dave, I don't know if luck, because you then went out and got the next World Junior champion. There's a guy called Marcus Hunt that was 6'9". Yeah, and that was when you lost the program. And I'm interested, to get your take on what it was like to lose such a prestigious men's program. Yeah, at that time, that was incredibly hard. And Marcus, it probably turned out pretty well for him. Although I would have liked to seen him continue in the discus, but that was a tough thing that you had to deal with, and I'm interested in how you took that on board.
He actually won the shot and the discus in the World Juniors.
Yeah. And the World Junior record holder, right?
Yeah.
Do
you guys just memorize everything that's ever happened in the history of track and field? How do you do that?
They do. They do.
Oh my God!
In the shot freshman year. Sorry.
Loving those distances.
Wow. Robert knows as well as anybody. I tried to hide it as much, but I was crushed. I mean, I was destroyed completely. And 2 years, I sat around and just felt sorry for myself. And because I knew I wasn't going to leave Dallas because it was our home, and my wife loved it. And so I stayed and became the women's coach. And finally, it took 2 years to get over it. And then I took on some other challenges. I became the associate athletic director in charge of academics. And I implemented a high-risk, at-risk tutoring facility, and hired and mentored and put it together and for the at-risk athletes that SMU is now letting in football and basketball, which they hadn't before. And that is now in place. And made impacts. And I can't tell you how many first generation college students that they've got through school because of that. And then I encouraged the 2 new majors that made sense for, if you're going to allow kids that didn't get the background academically, you have to have a place for them to go that will provide value. Otherwise, you're just using those kids, right? Mm-hmm. So we did. We added leadership training as part of the humanities area group, and we added another really, really cool thing, which I just absolutely love, was sports movement and kinesiology. And so,
wow,
so many people have been impacted because of that. And I sold that to the academia by telling them, yeah, they were looking at admissions for their Nobel laureates, right? And how many people were going to get those? I said, I'm looking to change generations with each kid. And when I gave that presentation to the board of directors, it just sold them. And we got the entire group, and we moved it from under me into the provost's office, so that there were, no questions. Dave wasn't giving the answers to the tests or anything, but it's impacted SMU. And that I realized then the good Lord had other plans, and I wanted to make sure I was fulfilling those plans.
That's beautiful, awesome. Dave. Yeah. That is absolutely incredible. Yeah. And I'm sure those students are so appreciative. I mean, back in the day, I didn't even know what the first generation, college student was. And I was a couple years ago, and I got invited to the FLY network here at Stanford, which is first generation, low income something. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why am I getting this? And then I realized I too was first generation college student. I didn't ever understand what significance that was, but I know I struggled, and I know you were always there for me. And so whether I was your first, I don't know, but come to realize that it does play an impact. And so thank you for that and believing in me.
Well, I love you all. There's no question. Still do.
So we'll just do this again next Friday. Is that maybe what we should do? You guys busy?
Yeah, I'm doing this in my bedroom because my dogs are really loud. I'm not sure I'm going to get out the door here. I might have to wait a little bit. Okay. So I appreciate all your kind words. And
Dave, I've been on 12 hours of coaching conference with Kibwe Johnson, who sends his regards, but he started at 9 o'clock in the morning, Florida time.
Wow.
And we just finished about 20 minutes ago.
I bet that was fun.
So yeah, it's fun. We had a lot of good stuff going on. So and your name was mentioned a couple of times. So your influence is there as well.
Well, you also had some influence in some of the technical things that was going on. I mean, you certainly made an impact on the discus. I mean, when you look at the athletes you had, it's not just that they got there and they just performed and they were really good, but you actually made them better. And some of the adjustments you made, when I tried them with other athletes, they also worked. And I've just really appreciated that. And I wanted to be able to share some of the information. So when you asked me about some of the things with Adam and I told you, and then you used it, I was really pleased because I felt that I was returning a favor that a friend had given me. And I was very grateful for that. I also think that that you may have inherited Pam, but obviously you had an impact on her because she's doing this interview. So I want to know, what was it that you said to Pam that changed her? Because she's not. There's something she's not telling us.
Yeah, you tuned in late, but I went through. Pam took a village to raise.
Dave, she scared the heck out of me.
Oh my gosh, here we go again.
Yeah, I mean, you guys all remember in practice, I'd always go grab Brooks to come watch Pam throw, or I'd have Michael Carter come over to the stadium to watch Pam throw. Yeah. I didn't do that with anybody else because you didn't need it, but Pam needed it. She needed the extra attention-seeking motivation. And Maslow's tells you that effort and motivation are directly relinked, right? So you have to provide what their needs are, figure out where they are on that scale, and give it to them in any way possible. And that's what we did with Pam. And look what happened. Look at this lady. And
I'm just curious. Did you two train together?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
With Dave as well.
Yeah, they were on the same team. Yeah, absolutely.
No,
I remember.
What by that is because they're so very different.
Oh yeah. No, they were. Yeah, no.
And, sometimes when you have people at practice, I've had to separate people. Like, okay, you come at 3 o'clock, you come at 4, because it's just, it's just crazy.
Well, as you
okay,
know,
no way.
It isn't a large group, so you got to keep them all there. It's not a large group at Stanford. They don't get a lot of people in school there that can do crazy things with the throws.
Robert, are you implying that I was difficult to get along with?
By any imagination, would I say
no. We could not have handled more than one needy athlete at a time.
For goodness sake, I would never say that. All I'm saying is that I know there are different personalities, and when you have, my limited experience in coaching.
Patty just demanded my time. She didn't demand everybody else's time.
What was that?
Patty just demanded my time, not everybody else's. Pam wanted a piece of everybody's time.
Do you know there are people watching right now like, okay, we're going to tell her that? We're going to talk about that on Monday?
But look at it. It worked. You made the Olympic team.
That's true.
I think you still have the – no, you don't have the Stanford record anymore, do you? They had some – Did you have somebody break the shot record?
Some girl, but individual Camarina, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I did want to tell a funny story about Robert because I remember when I was training and I would go down. This was after I got out of school. I was training. And one day I sprained my ankle really badly, like the training room, like I couldn't even walk. And so I was in the training room and I remember I was upset and my ankle was just going like this. And I didn't even know how I was going to drive. I didn't know what I was going to do. And Robert was there. And because you guys know, Robert is big and strong. So Robert actually carried me on his back to my car. And then he drove me to my apartment and carried me upstairs and helped me to get into my apartment. And I will never forget that, Robert. That was really special. And I just thought this guy is an animal. It's like his strength knows no bounds at all.
Oh dear, that was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago.
I have to call in. I just answered a message on my phone because I tried to get Lisa Bernhagen Ramos to come in on this call, and she couldn't make it. She's out for dinner. She and John, but she sends her love and her thanks and best wishes to you. So John was my fraternity little brother. So and I helped recruit Lisa back in the day to make sure she came to Stanford.
You also told her. You also reminded her that she needed to go to bed at night because sleep mattered. So I appreciated that insurance.
We kept an eye on her. I felt guilty. We used Jay Thorsten to lure her to come to Stanford. So Jay was was the honeypot. Jay was our Catholic
I get
friend.
that. We trapped a lot of women with Jay, didn't we?
So it was when she came on a recruiting trip. This little high school girl out of Idaho, and say, "Hey, this is Jay. His dad lives up in Sun Valley, and so you got a lot in common." And then after that weekend, there was no way she was going anywhere else.
No doubt.
Oh dear.
Well, we've been on here super long.
I used that in my career, I can tell you.
Well, it is getting late, and I know you guys have other things you have to do, but I just want to thank you so much for coming and showing up to surprise Dave. Because the coordination of this day is like, can you come? Sean's in England, y'all, so it's, what is it, midnight or something that you're calling in on?
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it too, guys.
It was funny. I was on a phone call with Brooks Johnson, did a phone in like this that started at 1 a.m. till 3 a.m. yesterday. He had a Zoom call with people like he had some of the great 400-meter coaches there, John Smith and Clyde Hart. So I stayed up to listen to that one. It's I always like listening to good coaches, Dave. So
I appreciate that, Sean.
Wow.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
All right, guys. Thanks, Pam. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, and thank you for all that you've done, Dave.
Yeah,
just so you see, you've made a huge impression on all of us, and we're grateful.
Love to Shirley, Dave. Stay safe. Huh?
All right.
Yes, love to
take
Shirley.
Care. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye.